I was 10 when I joined the youth choir at St. Bridget's Parish in Lowell, Massachusetts. It wasn't something I was thrilled about. My mom insisted, said it would help me make friends and be more involved with the community. I didn't really care about any of that. I just didn't want to sit in the pew every Sunday, bored out of my mind. The choir met twice a week after school in a small, cold room under the chapel. There were about a dozen kids, most of them older than me. I remember feeling small and out of place, but our director, Mr. Langley, was friendly and enthusiastic. He was in his late 50s, had gray hair slicked back with something greasy, and always wore khaki slacks that made his legs look too skinny. He smelled like cologne and stale cough drops. At first, he didn't seem threatening. He'd clap and sing along with us, sometimes making silly faces to get us to laugh during warm-ups. I remember thinking he reminded me of my grandpa, except louder. But over time, things began to feel strange. He started picking favorites. At every practice, he'd single out 2 or 3 of us to stay behind for extra coaching. At first, I was flattered when he asked me. He said I had a good ear, better than most kids my age. I stayed behind after choir one Thursday, and he walked me through scales and harmonies, giving me candy afterward. It felt like a reward. But the next few times were different. He started putting his hand on my shoulder, then my back. Once, he adjusted my posture from behind and kept his hands on me a little too long. I thought maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I was just uncomfortable around adults in general. But I started noticing how he acted with the other kids too, mostly boys. He'd stand too close, talk too softly, always touching someone's arm or guiding them by the waist. I wasn't the only one who noticed. One day, I caught Kevin, a quiet kid who always wore oversized sweaters, crying in the hallway after rehearsal. I asked if he was okay, and he just shook his head and said, "I don't want to stay late anymore." I told him he should tell someone. He just mumbled, "It won't help," and walked off. I started making excuses to leave as soon as practice ended. Mr. Langley would frown and ask if I didn't want to improve, if I was giving up on my gift. I'd just mumble something about homework or my mom needing me home. I avoided being alone in that basement room at all costs. A few weeks later, we had a Saturday retreat in the church hall. It was supposed to be a fun day of games, singing, and snacks. My mom volunteered to help with the snack table, but she left early. Around mid-afternoon, Mr. Langley announced a short solo audition session in the music room for anyone interested in solos for the upcoming Easter Mass. A few kids lined up, including me. I figured it was public enough to be safe. But after I sang my bit, he nodded and smiled and told me to wait in the room for some notes. Then the door clicked shut behind him. My stomach dropped. He told me to try singing it again, this time with more feeling. He moved closer as I sang, nodding slowly. I kept my eyes on the sheet music, but I could feel him watching me. When I finished, he clapped softly and put a hand on my shoulder. "You really are special, Jack," he said. "A voice like that needs guidance." I tensed up, tried to step back, but he didn't move. His hand stayed. Then his other hand touched my back. He started saying something about how great singers had to be brave, had to trust their mentors. I felt frozen. My mind was racing, but my body wouldn't move. Then, a knock on the door. It opened almost immediately. One of the other volunteers, Mrs. Alvarez, poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt. Jack, your mom's on the phone. She says she's outside." I nearly pushed past her. I don't even remember thanking her. I just ran. In the car, my mom asked why I looked so pale. I said I wasn't feeling well. That night, I didn't sleep. The next day, I told my mom everything. I thought she wouldn't believe me, but she got very quiet. Then she hugged me tight and told me I was brave. She contacted the parish office and told them exactly what happened. Mr. Langley was placed on administrative leave while the church conducted an internal review. But people whispered. Some defended him, said he was being targeted unfairly. Others said he'd always been too friendly. Weeks passed. Eventually, more kids came forward. Kevin's parents were the loudest. They had emails, messages Mr. Langley had sent their son. The investigation became public. The police got involved. Mr. Langley was arrested. I never saw him again. What haunts me isn't just what he did, or tried to do. It's how close he came to getting away with it. How easy it was for him to work in a church, surrounded by children, trusted by everyone. He wore that trust like armor. I stopped going to St. Bridget's after that. My mom did too. We found a different parish, one where the priest knew what happened and told us he understood. But I still think about that cold basement room, about Kevin, about the kids who probably never said anything. I've never joined another choir, and I never will. Before we dive into the next story, if you're here for the first time, please consider subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell icon so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. Your support truly encourages us and helps this channel continue to grow. And don't forget to share these stories with your friends and family. Thank you. When I was 16, I volunteered at a small Methodist church in rural Oregon called Willow Pines Chapel. My family wasn't particularly religious, but my mom insisted I get involved in the community somehow, and volunteering through the church seemed safe enough. I helped set up chairs, ran the audio system on Sundays, and occasionally did janitorial stuff when the regular guy called out. The building itself was ancient, whitewood siding, moss-covered shingles, and a fellowship hall that always smelled like mildew, no matter how often it was cleaned. The whole church sat beside an overgrown cemetery and a stretch of pine forest that looked like it hadn't seen sunlight in a decade. Creepy. Yeah, sure. But when you grow up around places like that, you learn to tune it out. This story happened in July of 2018. It was a Thursday evening. The pastor, a man named Martin, had asked me to stay late and help prepare for a regional meeting of church leaders that weekend. Tables needed to be arranged in the fellowship hall, extension cords run, and all the equipment checked. I didn't mind. It meant skipping dinner with my stepdad, which was a win in my book. Pastor Martin was older, maybe mid-60s, and polite in a surface-level way. But I always got a weird feeling around him. Not overtly creepy or anything, just off. He spoke softly, always smiling, but it never reached his eyes. It's hard to explain. He gave me the kind of vibe you ignore until it's too late. He left around 6:30 p.m., saying he had to pick up some special supplies in town, and told me to lock up when I was done. That wasn't unusual. I'd closed up the church plenty of times. I texted my mom to let her know I'd be late, then got to work. It was around 7:15 p.m. when I first heard it, something scraping under the floorboards of the fellowship hall. I was moving a plastic table into place when it happened. It was faint, like someone slowly dragging something heavy across wood. I froze. The floorboards in the hall were old and creaky, but this was different. It didn't come from the floor itself. It came from beneath it. I stood there, heart thudding, trying to convince myself it was a raccoon or some busted pipe. But then it came again. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. I walked slowly to the corner of the hall where the noise had come from. There was a dusty closet there with a cracked wooden door. I'd only opened it once before. It just had folding chairs and spider webs. But tonight, something felt different. I opened the door. There, behind the chairs and an old podium, was a square wooden panel on the floor I hadn't noticed before. It was a hatch, probably access to a crawl space or storage. I knelt and brushed away the dust and grime. There was no handle, just a notch where you could wedge your fingers in. The smart thing would have been to leave it alone. But I was a dumb teenager with too much curiosity and too little caution. I pried it open. The smell hit me first. Damp earth, rot, and something else I couldn't place, like moldy fabric and meat left too long in the sun. I gagged. My phone flashlight barely cut through the darkness, but I saw a narrow wooden ladder leading down into a cramped crawlspace. I leaned in. That's when I saw movement. A shadow darted just out of the light. Something was definitely down there. I slammed the hatch shut and backed away fast, nearly tripping over the chairs. I locked the closet and left the hall, adrenaline kicking in. I grabbed my bag and was halfway to the front door when I heard a voice from inside the hall. "Help!" It was hoarse, raspy, definitely female. I stopped cold. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but my feet wouldn't move. The voice came again. "Please, I'm still down here!" Still. That word made my blood run cold. I turned around and walked slowly, too slowly, back to the fellowship hall. The closet door was wide open now. I hadn't heard it open. The panel was open too. The smell was stronger. I stood at the edge of the crawlspace, my flashlight aimed down. "Who's there?" I called out. "Are you stuck?" No reply. I lowered myself onto the ladder, maybe 3 rungs, just enough to get a better look. That's when I saw the carvings on the inside of the hatch. Scratches, really deep, frantic, overlapping. Words. "Please. No more. Let us out." I scrambled back up and slammed the hatch shut again, this time pushing a metal cart over it. I backed out of the room, locked the door behind me, and sprinted to my car. I didn't stop driving until I reached the Safeway parking lot 10 miles away. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, shaking, trying to make sense of it. I told my mom I got sick and was driving home. I didn't mention the hatch, or the voice, or the carvings. The next day, Pastor Martin texted me. "Thanks for staying late last night. Got everything squared away." I never replied. I didn't go back to Willow Pines after that. I told my mom I wanted to volunteer at the animal shelter instead. She didn't push. 2 weeks later, the church hosted that regional meeting. I saw pictures on Facebook, happy people, tables with snacks, Pastor Martin giving a speech behind the podium. In the background of one photo, I recognized something, barely visible behind the folding chairs in the fellowship hall. The closet door opened again. No one ever asked me why I left. I never told anyone what I found under that floor. But sometimes, when I can't sleep, I still hear her voice. Whispered slowly. "I'm still down here."